Imagine standing in a crowded, slightly noisy coffee shop. You're at the counter, right?
Oh, yeah, the classic scenario. I can picture the anxiety already.
Totally. So the barista looks at you and asks just a slightly unexpected question about your order. And intellectually, 10,000 English words.
Right, your passive vocabulary is huge.
Exactly. Yeah. You've studied the grammar rules for years. I mean, you can sit at home on your couch, open this incredibly complex, dense article in English, and just understand almost every single sentence.
But in that specific moment.
Yeah, in that moment, under the fluorescent lights, with like the hiss of the espresso machine in the background, your brain just entirely shuts down.
It's a total systemic freeze, like a computer crashing.
Right. You're standing there, translating their question into your native language, just desperately rifling through the filing cabinets of your mind to construct the perfect, grammatically flawless response.
And by the time you've actually built that sentence in your head.
The barista has looked away.
Yeah.
The moment is totally dead, and the conversation just moves on without you. You walk away with your coffee feeling like you are trapped inside your own head.
It's awful. It really is the defining agony of the B1 to B2 proficiency level.
Yeah.
You are caught in this maddening purgatory between passive comprehension, like knowing what things mean, and active expression, actually saying them out loud.
And it shatters this illusion we all have about learning, right? Because we have this expectation of a straight line. Like you put the hours in, you read the textbook, pass the test, and boom, you acquire the skill.
Yeah, but language just doesn't work like that at all. It's a completely different beast.
It really is. I want to give you, the listener, a metaphor to hold on to for this entire deep dive today, because today is all about destroying that mental roadblock.
Well, I love a good metaphor. Let's hear it.
Okay, so being stuck at the B1 or B2 level is exactly like knowing how to read sheet music perfectly.
Oh, right. Like you know where every single note goes on the staff.
Exactly. You understand tempo, you understand rhythm, you can look at a Mozart sonata and literally hear it in your head. But you have never actually picked up the physical guitar.
Your fingers have absolutely no calluses.
None. Your muscles do not know how to fret the strings.
Aww.
So today is the day we put down the sheet music and we start building those calluses.
That is just the perfect framework for what we are exploring today. We're looking at a highly targeted masterclass methodology designed specifically to push learners past this exact plateau.
And the core philosophy here requires a pretty radical psychological shift, doesn't it?
It really does. It's about moving away from treating English as an academic exercise, like a subject to study, and instead starting to treat it as an environment you construct and live inside of, regardless of where you geographically live.
So if we're going to start building these metaphorical guitar calluses, we have to talk about the primary mechanism for doing it. We need to talk about shadowing.
Yes, shadowing is the key.
Now, I've heard the term shadowing thrown around in language apps and YouTube videos forever, and it usually just means like listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say. But from what I'm looking at in our research today, this is not just acting like a parrot, right?
Not at all. I mean, if you're just mindlessly echoing sounds, you are missing the entire neurological benefit of the exercise.
So what is true shadowing then?
What the methodology points out is that true shadowing is a trifold training process. You are simultaneously training the mind to think in the target language.
Okay, the mind.
Right, and you're training the ears to recognize natural acoustic patterns, things like intonation, stress, and where the pauses naturally fall. And then, most importantly, you are physically training the mouth.
Let's unpack that physical part, because I
Okay.
really think people underestimate the biology of speaking.
Oh, they vastly underestimate it. Think about it this way. Your native language has literally wired the motor cortex of your brain and the muscles of your face, jaw, and tongue over decades to move in very specific, highly efficient ways.
Right, your mouth defaults to its native settings.
Exactly. So when a Spanish speaker or a French speaker tries to produce the specific phonemes, the distinct units of sound of English, they are asking their facial muscles to perform movements they have never practiced.
It's like asking a marathon runner to suddenly do gymnastics. I mean, the muscles are there, but the coordination is entirely foreign.
Precisely. The tongue tension is different. The breath control is completely different, even the way you shake your lips.
Wow, yeah.
So when you are shadowing speaking out loud, matching the rhythm and tone of natural English, you are basically doing physical therapy for your mouth. You are building the physical muscle memory required to produce English smoothly.
So if your jaw doesn't feel a little bit tired after a good shadowing session, you probably aren't doing it right.
You're definitely not pushing hard enough, yeah.
That makes so much sense. Because the research specifically points out that B1 and B2 learners usually don't fail in real conversations because of a lack of vocabulary.
No, they know the words. They know the word umbrella. They know the word schedule.
Right. They fail because of an inability to bring those words out of their throat without hesitation.
And that hesitation comes directly from cognitive load, which is really the silent killer of fluency.
Explain cognitive load in this context, because that sounds like the culprit for the coffee shop freeze.
It is exactly the culprit. When you are standing in that coffee shop, translating from your native language to English, checking the grammar rules in your head, and then trying to physically pronounce it, your brain's processing power is completely maxed out.
It's doing, like, triple duty.
It's an exhausting, incredibly heavy metabolic cost for your brain.
But hold on, let me just push back on this practice method for a second.
Yeah.
If the strategy is shadowing, repeating these phrases out loud, alone in my apartment, aren't I just talking to a wall?
Well, yes and no.
I mean, human interaction is chaotic. People interrupt, they use slang, they abruptly change the subject. How does me, sitting alone in my kitchen, repeating sentences to an empty room, actually prepare me for the wild unpredictability of a real human being?
It's a very fair skepticism. I mean, why practice in a vacuum when the real world is messy? But the answer lies in what linguists call internal fluency.
Internal fluency. Okay, break that down for me. Explain it like on 5.
Sure. Think of your brain like a computer's RAM, its short-term working memory. In a real conversation, you need that RAM to listen to the other person, read their body language, formulate your ideas, and just handle the general anxiety of the social interaction.
Right, that takes a lot of mental energy.
Exactly. Now, if you are also using that same RAM to figure out how to physically move your tongue to say the word, although your system crashes, you freeze.
So by talking to the wall,
By talking to the wall, by rehearsing these natural syntactic patterns out loud in a zero-stress environment, you are automating the physical and grammatical production of the language. You are moving the act of speaking English from your active working memory into your automatic subconscious motor memory. You are lowering the cognitive load.
So when the adrenaline spikes because a real human just asks you a question, your mouth already knows how to form the building blocks of the answer.
Exactly. You freed up your brain's RAM to actually handle the chaotic human interaction itself.
You are literally just preloading the software so it doesn't have to buffer in real time. That is brilliant.
It is. And there is a critical rule for the B1 to B2 crowd that goes hand in hand with this preloading. You must prioritize clarity over speed.
Yes. Let's talk about this because there's this terrible pervasive myth that fluency means talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
It's a trap almost every single intermediate learner falls into. They watch native speakers rattling off sentences on Netflix, and they equate speed with mastery. But what the research explicitly advises is that speed is a byproduct, clarity is the actual goal.
Because when you try to speak too fast before you have that internal fluency, you're basically outrunning your own headlights.
That's exactly what happens. Your cognitive load maxes out instantly. You panic, you forget a single preposition, and the entire sentence architecture collapses. You start stuttering.
So slowing down is actually faster in the long run.
Yes. By deliberately prioritizing clarity, speaking a little slower, enunciating, taking deliberate pauses, you give your brain those vital microseconds it needs to fetch the vocabulary and apply the grammar rules automatically.
Okay, so shadowing builds the muscle memory and lowers the cognitive load. But what I find truly fascinating about this approach is that it doesn't just want you shadowing random audiobooks or news broadcasts.
Right, that's the big shift.
It wants you shadowing your own life.
Yes, and this is where we transition from abstract theory into incredibly practical daily application, because the goal is to break the translation habit completely.
And how do we do that?
Well, the most effective way is to take the most private, secure environment possible, your own home, during your most mundane daily routines, and turn it into an immersive language lab.
I love this concept. It's like you become the director of a movie, but the movie is just your own totally normal Tuesday.
I like that, the director's commentary track.
Yeah, you're recording the director's commentary track over your own life. You are forcing your brain to supply the English subtitles to your reality in real time.
The director's commentary is a brilliant way to frame it, because what you are doing is taking an action you perform on autopilot, like making coffee or folding laundry, and mapping English directly onto the physical experience.
So let's get into the mechanics of why this works. The material we're analyzing gives very concrete steps for household chores.
Right, let's take cooking breakfast as an example.
Okay, the suggestion is to not just stand there in silence, translating your thoughts. Instead, you internally, or preferably out loud, narrate the exact moment.
What's the phrase they use?
You say, I'm making my breakfast right now. I woke up feeling fresh today. I'm preparing some tea. I'm thinking about my plans for the day.
Now, on the surface, that sounds almost too simple for a B1 or B2 learner, right? I mean, they already know the words breakfast and tea.
Yeah, it sounds like beginner stuff. But we have to look at the neurology of what is actually happening here. Why does linking an English phrase to the physical act of cooking bypass the brain's translation center?
It has to do with how the brain's hippocampus encodes memory. The hippocampus loves multisensory contextual data.
Explain the causality there, because that really feels like the magic trick.
Sure. When you sit at a desk and memorize the phrase, I am preparing tea from a flashcard, it's just a dry, abstract data point. But when you physically grasp the handle of the kettle, hear the water boiling, smell the tea leaves, and simultaneously speak the words, I am preparing some tea.
You are creating a dense, multisensory neural network. You are tying the language to the physical world, not to your native language dictionary.
Precisely. You are teaching your brain that the concept of boiling water is the English phrase, rather than translating your native word for boiling into English. And furthermore, notice the grammar being used in these templates. I am making, I am preparing. It relies heavily on the present continuous tense.
Right. And present continuous is one of those tenses that B1 learners ace on written grammar tests, but they just completely mangle it in spontaneous conversation.
Oh, constantly. They'll say, I make breakfast instead of I am making.
Because in spontaneous speech, they don't have time to pull up the grammar rule book.
Exactly. But by narrating the action as it is physically happening right in front of them, they lock the grammatical structure to a lived reality. You are training the syntax right into your muscle memory.
There's another great template for later in the day, say when you are prepping dinner. The text suggests narrating. I'm cooking right now. The kitchen smells really nice. I'm thinking about my day and practicing English in my mind while I cook.
That's a great one.
Or, here's another one. I'm cutting vegetables right now, and while I cook, I'm practicing English silently. I'm describing the actions.
What's crucial about these specific phrases is that they aren't just describing the external world, they are describing the internal state.
Like saying, I am thinking about my day, or I am practicing silently.
Yes. You are expanding the vocabulary of your inner monologue. And this is so important. If your inner monologue remains in your native language, you will always be a tourist in English.
Always translating, never truly living in it.
Right.
Okay, so the director's commentary works perfectly when I'm alone in that kitchen chopping onions. I mean, I feel like a linguistic genius alone in my kitchen.
Don't we all?
But another huge part of this method is taking this narration out into the world, doing it while you're walking, for instance.
Yes, walking is a phenomenal opportunity, and there is an actual biological reason for it. The rhythmic physical movement of walking actually stimulates cognitive function.
Really?
Yeah, and it can help establish the prosody, the rhythm and flow of your speech.
So the rhythm of your footsteps acts like a metronome for your English.
Exactly. The templates suggested for walking are just brilliant in their simplicity. Let's say you are walking to work. You say to yourself, I'm walking to work right now. The weather is nice. I'm thinking about the conversations I'll have today.
I really love that last sentence. I'm thinking about the conversations I'll have today, because it's forward-looking. You are mentally prepping the brain for the social interactions that are about to happen, but you're doing all that prep work in English.
Or if you're going for a slower pace, perhaps an evening stroll to unwind, the suggestion is, I'm taking a slow walk right now, just enjoying the evening. It's peaceful outside.
Setting the mood.
Right. And then adding a layer of metacognition, like I'm walking slowly and thinking about how my English has improved.
So let me just summarize the real value of this for the listener. The paradigm shift here is that your language practice is no longer confined to the 30 minutes you sit at a desk with a workbook on a Tuesday night.
No, your practice time is now every single time you chop a carrot.
It's every time you walk to the subway station. It's the 3 minutes you wait for the shower water to get hot. You are constantly, relentlessly bathing your brain in the language.
You are creating a state of continuous, self-generated immersion. People always complain, I can't get fluent because I don't live in London or New York.
Right, the geographic excuse.
But this methodology proves that geographical location is completely secondary. You don't need to live in an English-speaking country. You are building an English-speaking environment inside your own skull.
Okay, I am entirely sold on the internal narration. I've built my calluses, my cognitive load is lowered, and my internal voice is starting to speak English.
Excellent.
But the real test, and let's be honest, the real terror is when the environment talks back.
Yes, the real world.
We have to take this public. We have to interact with native speakers or colleagues. How do we do that?
This is where the strategy shifts from internal narration to external engagement. We've built the foundation. Now we have to look at how these shadowing techniques apply to unpredictable professional environments and public spaces.
Let's start with a low-stakes public environment. Let's go back to that cafe from the very beginning of the deep dive.
Okay, you're waiting for your order.
Right. Instead of staring at your phone, the methodology suggests turning this waiting period into an active exercise in observation.
Because observation is the bridge between internal thought and external communication. The thought template for the cafe is, I'm sitting in a small cafe right now. It's quiet, I can hear soft music. I'm thinking about my day, and I'm practicing English while I wait.
It grounds you in the environment. It stops that panic spiral because you are taking active control of the narrative in your head.
Exactly.
But let's escalate the stakes significantly. Let's talk about the workplace. This, for me, is where this research provides the most immense tangible value for that B1, B2 learner.
Because it explicitly demonstrates how to upgrade your vocabulary, right? From perfectly functional to highly professional.
Yes. The chasm between B1 and B2 is rarely about learning entirely new grammar constructs. It is almost entirely about precision, nuance, and tone.
You are moving from basic, blunt descriptors to vocabulary that subtly conveys competence, management, and professionalism.
Let's do a little role play to illustrate this, because the contrast is really stark. Imagine we are at the office water cooler. I am your colleague, and I ask you the classic, dreaded small talk question. Hey, how is your week going?
Okay. Now, if I'm a B1 learner, my instinct is to rely on safe foundational words. I might say, it is good. I am very busy.
Which is grammatically flawless. I mean, it communicates the core information.
But it lacks professional polish. It doesn't elevate you in the eyes of your colleague.
So what's the upgrade?
Here is the upgraded B2 level template to shadow and internalize for that exact same interaction. This week has been quite productive. I've been focusing on refining my communication skills and paying attention to how people express themselves.
Okay, we need to dissect that sentence word by word because it is an absolute masterclass in corporate communication. First of all, swapping out busy or good for productive.
Busy just means you have a lot of tasks. A hamster on a wheel is busy.
Right, anyone can be busy.
Productive implies forward momentum, achievement, and effective management of time. It is a word highly valued in literally any corporate culture.
And then, instead of saying, I am practicing my English, the template uses focusing on refining. Refining is such a phenomenal word.
It changes the entire power dynamic of the sentence. Think about it. Practicing implies you are a novice trying to learn the basics.
Like practicing the piano.
Exactly. Refining suggests that you already possess a robust, high-level skill, and you are simply polishing it to a state of perfection. It communicates mastery.
And the final clause? Paying attention to how people express themselves, not how people talk or what people say. Express.
Again, precision. Express highlights the nuance of communication, emotion, tone, intent. Delivering that entire sentence smoothly immediately elevates the speaker's perceived intelligence and competence.
Let's look at another one. I'm your manager, and in a one-on-one meeting, I ask, how do you manage your time with these new projects? The B1 reflex is, I make a list and I do it.
Functional but basic. The upgraded template is, I've been trying to organize my schedule more effectively. I divide my tasks into smaller steps so I can stay focused and avoid feeling overwhelmed.
That sounds like it came straight out of a Harvard Business Review article. Let's look at the mechanics of why that sounds so native.
It relies heavily on collocations.
Collocations. Okay, clarify that term for us.
Collocations are words that naturally and habitually go together in a specific language. They are the chunks of language that native speakers use without even thinking.
Like what?
Well, in English, we say heavy rain, not strong rain, even though the meaning is identical. Strong rain just sounds wrong.
Right.
In professional English, organize my schedule, stay focused, and feeling overwhelmed are powerful collocations. When you shadow this sentence, you aren't just learning isolated vocabulary words, you are swallowing whole prepackaged chunks of corporate strategy.
You were learning the melody, not just the notes.
Beautifully put.
One more example for everyday catching up. Say someone asks, what have you been up to? The template is, I've been keeping myself busy with work and learning. I'm trying to stay disciplined. Using the word disciplined in casual conversation is a fascinating choice.
Because it's an emotional word disguised as a professional one. It shows character, intent, and self-awareness.
Okay, I need to jump in with a reality check here. I'm playing devil's advocate for
Yeah,
a minute.
bring it on.
These templates are beautiful. They are structurally perfect. But let's go back to our listener at the water cooler. They've shadowed this sentence. They take a breath. They start delivering this gorgeous thought about refining their communication skills. And right in the middle of the sentence, the cognitive load spikes.
The dreaded blank out.
Yeah. A phone rings. They lose their train of thought and their brain just completely blanks. They get stuck. The silence stretches out. Panic sets in. What happens then? Because this is the nightmare scenario that keeps people from speaking at all.
It is the absolute worst feeling, the sudden linguistic void. But what is so valuable about the material we are reviewing is that it doesn't pretend this won't happen. It is deeply practical about the messy reality of human conversation, and it provides explicit psychological protocols for these exact moments of failure.
Okay, what is the protocol? How do I survive the void?
The primary instruction is about emotional resilience. When you forget a word, you must actively refuse to panic.
Which is incredibly easy to say and incredibly difficult to do when your boss is staring at you waiting for the end of the sentence.
True, but think about the physiological response to panic. The spike in cortisol, the shallow breathing, it literally constricts blood flow to the language centers of your brain.
So panic guarantees you won't remember the word.
Exactly. So the actionable technique is this. Take a deliberate physical pause, breathe, accept that the B2 word is gone, substitute a simpler B1 expression, and immediately continue the momentum of the sentence.
So I shouldn't stand there for 10 agonizing seconds, staring at the ceiling, snapping my fingers, trying to perfectly recall the word refining.
Absolutely not. If you lose refining, just smoothly say improving. If your brain can't find improving, say working on. The underlying philosophy here is vital. Connection is more important than perfect grammar or advanced vocabulary.
Connection is more important than perfect grammar.
Yeah.
That is profound. I feel like that should be printed on a poster in every single language classroom in the world.
It is a profoundly liberating concept once you truly internalize it. Think about it from the native speaker's perspective. The colleague you are talking to at the water cooler does not care if you use a B2 level connector or a B1 level adjective.
They aren't grading me.
No, they're not grading you. They care about understanding your idea and connecting with you as a fellow human being.
And when you freeze and show visible panic, the interaction actually becomes uncomfortable for them. You've broken the social flow.
Exactly. But when you simply pause, substitute a simpler word without apologizing, and keep the momentum of the idea going, the conversation flows naturally. You maintain the human connection. And ultimately, that is the only metric of success in a real-world conversation.
That perfectly transitions us into the next critical phase of true fluency. Because maintaining a connection isn't just about handling small talk or describing your tasks.
No, it goes much deeper than that.
To truly connect with people, you have to be able to talk about what is going on inside your head. You have to articulate your motivations.
Yes, the research argues convincingly that true fluency, the leap from B2 to C1, requires emotional depth. You cannot just be a reporting machine stating facts about your schedule. You need the linguistic tools to articulate why you are doing things and how those things make you feel.
And this is highly relevant because language learners are constantly bombarded with questions about their journey, like, why are you learning English? Or how is your English coming along? And the default panicky answer is almost always just, oh, I am learning English because I need it for work.
It's a dead end. It's dry, it's passive, and it absolutely kills the conversation.
Exactly. But the templates provided for expressing personal goals are incredibly dynamic. They reframe the learner entirely. Let's look at the first goal phrase. The template is, one of my main goals this year is to speak English more naturally. I want to express my ideas clearly and confidently in every situation.
Notice the shift in agency there. You are no longer a victim of a language requirement. You are an active architect of your own personal growth.
Let's look at the second phrase, which digs even deeper into motivation. I'm motivated by the idea of becoming a more confident communicator. I want to express my thoughts clearly, participate in conversations more actively, and understand people without any confusion. What stands out to you neurologically or linguistically about that specific phrasing?
To me, it's the clustering of active verbs. Express, participate, understand. It frames the learner as an active participant in society. But the most powerful part of that sentence is the ending. Understand people without any confusion.
Why that part?
Because it openly acknowledges a deeply relatable pain point for all language learners: the fear of confusion, the fear of misunderstanding. But it frames that fear not as a weakness, but as a conquerable objective. It is highly vulnerable, yet completely confident.
It's authentic.
Very much so.
And there is a third template for long-term vision. Fluency is important to me because I want to connect with people from different places. I want to share my ideas, understand others clearly, and express myself without hesitation.
Express myself without hesitation. That brings us right back to the coffee shop at the beginning of the deep dive. That is the ultimate antidote to the mental roadblock.
But the methodology goes even further. It doesn't just give you the vocabulary to talk about the shining end goal. It gives you the language to describe the grueling daily effort of the journey itself.
The grind.
Yeah, it offers this template. Today, I want to be more intentional with my English learning. I want to pay attention to the expressions people use.
We're seeing those B2 power words again. Intentional, observe.
If a non-native speaker tells me they are trying to be intentional with their learning, I am instantly paying attention. That word shows a serious level of metacognition.
Metacognition being the ability to think about how you think, to analyze your own learning process. To express metacognitive concepts in second language requires a highly sophisticated grasp of syntax and vocabulary. It instantly signals high intelligence to whoever you're talking to.
What I appreciate most about this section of the research is that it does not sugarcoat the reality. It validates the exhaustion of the plateau. It provides the exact language needed to express frustration, but it cleverly couples that frustration with resilience.
Yes.
This brings us to what might be my favorite phrase in the entire deep dive, the resilience phrase.
Oh, let's hear it.
The template is, sometimes I find certain expressions or accents difficult to understand, but I try to stay patient. I remind myself that every challenge is an opportunity to grow.
This is where language learning intersects with cognitive behavioral therapy. By shadowing a phrase like that, you are achieving two massive goals simultaneously.
Which are?
Well, linguistically, you are practicing a complex sentence structure with contrasting clauses. But
Psychologically, you are literally reprogramming your brain's response to stress.
exactly, you are repeating a mantra of emotional resilience. When you encounter a thick, difficult accent in the real world, your brain's default response is a threat response. Panic.
Right, the cortisol spikes.
But if you have shadowed this phrase 100 times, you have literally wired a new neural pathway that categorizes difficult accent as opportunity to grow. You are hacking your own psychology using the very vocabulary you are trying to master.
It's brilliant. You're using English to fix your fear of English. Okay, we have covered a massive amount of psychological and linguistic ground today. We started with the physical mechanics of shadowing and jaw fatigue.
Building the calluses.
Yep. We built the director's commentary for household chores to bypass the translation center. We took it public to the cafe and the office water cooler, upgrading from busy to productive. And we explored the emotional vocabulary of goals and metacognition.
It is a dense, potentially overwhelming amount of information. And if we know one thing about the intermediate learner, it is that information overload is the enemy of action.
Right. We cannot just dump an hour of linguistic theory and 30 templates on you and say, good luck, have fun out there.
No, we have to make it usable.
We have to synthesize this. We are going to take the entire core philosophy of this methodology and strictly organize it into a highly actionable, structured, 10-minute daily exercise sequence.
10 minutes. That is the magic number. It is small enough to be sustainable, but long enough to physically trigger the neurological adaptations we've been discussing.
Let's break this down, literally minute by minute. The sequence starts in the morning, minutes 1 to 3, the morning director's commentary. The focus here is narration and mindset.
And the action you must take here is crucial. The moment you wake up, as you are walking to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, you must actively refuse to let your native language start your day.
You are claiming the pristine early morning real estate of your brain for English. Before the stress of the day begins, before you check your emails in your native language, you establish the neural pathway.
The specific source phrase to shadow during these first 3 minutes is, I woke up early, I made a cup of tea, I checked my messages, and I prepared my things for the day.
So simple, yet so effective.
The goal here is simple but profound. Train the brain to use English automatically without stopping to translate. By establishing this pattern immediately upon waking, you bypass the heavy cognitive startup cost that usually happens when you try to switch languages later in the afternoon.
All right, so you've conquered the morning, your brain is primed. Now we move to the middle of the day, minutes 4 to 6. Midday observation and integration. You can execute this while walking to grab a sandwich for lunch, while doing a quick chore, or even just waiting for an elevator.
The cognitive action here shifts from internal narration to external observation. You look at your surroundings and practice using advanced connectors in your head. Furthermore, if you are listening to English audio, say a podcast or a news clip, you actively stop listening for vocabulary.
What do you listen for instead?
You focus entirely on the tone, the rhythm, and where the speaker takes their breaths.
Ah, you were listening to the music, not the lyrics.
Exactly. The phrase to anchor this midday practice, to remind yourself of your goal, is, I try to include English in small moments throughout the day. Even when I'm walking, cooking, or relaxing, I try to think in English. Repeating that aligns your physical action with your subconscious intention.
Now we move to the most physical part of the workout, minutes 7 and 8, the goal affirmation. The strict rule here is that this must be done out loud.
Yes, you cannot whisper this. You have to physically speak it into the room. You have to move the air.
Because this is where we build the guitar calluses. This is where we train the motor cortex.
The action is speaking your motivation out loud to yourself to build that physical mouth muscle memory and to generate audible confidence. The phrase is, I want to speak English that sounds natural, confident, and clear. I want to express myself smoothly without stopping or searching for words.
I can literally feel how saying that out loud forces the mouth to work.
Yeah.
The transition from the in smoothly to the es in stopping. It is a real muscular workout for non-native speaker.
It absolutely is.
And finally, we bring it home with minutes 9 and 10. The evening wind down. This is entirely about reflection.
Before you go to sleep, the action is to process your day's progress emotionally. You must acknowledge the effort you put in. Language learning is a marathon of delayed gratification. You do not see results day to day.
So true.
Therefore, you must artificially fuel yourself with positive reinforcement to prevent burnout.
The methodology gives 2 excellent options for this final stage. You can shadow. I'm ending my day with some gentle English practice. It feels good to know that even a few minutes can help me grow. Or, more simply, I feel proud of the progress I've made.
The core thesis underlying this entire 10-minute sequence is perhaps the most important takeaway of all. Consistency matters infinitely more than perfection.
Consistency over perfection.
Small, daily habits, executed relentlessly, even if they are just 10 minutes long, will eventually build the rhythm, the flow, and the physical architecture of a native speaker, gently and quietly over time. You are not cramming for a test. You are building a lifestyle.
Okay, let's bring all of these threads together.
Yeah.
We started this deep dive talking about that terrifying moment of mental freeze in the coffee shop, that suffocating trap of the B1, B2 plateau, where you conceptually know the words, but your physical mouth and your overloaded brain refuse to cooperate.
And we've seen that the escape route from that trap is not about studying harder. It is not about buying another grammar book or downloading another flashcard app.
It's about integration. It's about the physical, muscular act of shadowing. It's about becoming the director of your own life and providing the commentary track during your chores,
Yes.
narrating your breakfast, narrating your evening walk to bypass the translation center. It's about having those B2 templates locked and loaded for the office so you can confidently talk about refining your skills and staying focused instead of just defaulting to I am busy. And it's about speaking your emotional goals and your resilience into existence out loud every single day.
Which leaves us with a rather profound, almost philosophical implication drawn from the mechanics of this entire process.
Let's hear it.
If the ultimate goal of learning a language is to shift it from something you merely memorize into something you actively live inside of,
Yeah.
at what exact moment during your day, during your life, does your native internal voice truly belong to you? And when does it become a translation of who you want to be in the world? If your inner monologue becomes English, do you become a slightly different person?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy, beautiful thought to end on. Are you translating your daily life into English, or is English translating a brand new version of your life? I absolutely love that. Listen, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. You understand the neurology, you have the blueprint, you have your 10-minute sequence. Now put down the sheet music, go pick up the guitar, and go narrate your next cup of coffee in English.